Welcome to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Prodigal Son. The American Muscle Series returns to Slow Motion Broadcasting for Season 8. My name is Randall McGrew. I am joined in the commentary booth by Andre Dirt Grandbouche, and in the production booth we have Joshua Wilkie on the buttons and knobs, and we're back for another season, Season 8. It's going to be an exciting one. Round 1 here at Brands Hatch. And Andre, what do you expect to see out of these drivers in a new season?
I'll tell you what, after last season's race here at Brands Hatch, I don't know what to expect because they were kind of all over the place. We saw some really great racing, but also a ton of action here at the dips and bends of Brands Hatch. But for a new season, we got some new faces and a lot of returning drivers as well. Some known quantities that we know we're going to put on a great show. And overall, I'm just glad to be back in the booth.
Awesome to be here with you, Andre. And we joined the cars now in qualifying. We're taking a look currently at Edgar Sancinelli. They're about 2.5 minutes into qualifying. They will get 3 laps to set their best time. We're going to try to get on board with a driver that's about to start a flying lap to see what this track looks like from the cockpit of a Mustang. And currently just waiting for a driver that's coming near the end of a lap so we can join them. I've been watching the drivers in practice, and they've really been struggling out here with grip early on until the tires get heated up. So, Andre, are there any strategies you can use to get the tires up to temperature faster, or are you just kind of stuck with what you got?
Well, I'm a little bit out of the loop as far as iRacing is concerned, but I know that if it's anything like it used to be, if you just drive the car hard and get the tires up to temp, that's about the best thing you got. I don't think weaving or anything like that's going to help these guys. Just drive the car hard, get it up to temp if you can, and make best with what you got. But the weather obviously going to affect it as well. You can see some shade rolling in. That's going to affect the track temp a little bit. The cooler the better as far as these guys are concerned. And as this driver blinking a little bit here and there, still just waiting on a driver to get on a flying lap to figure out exactly how to navigate this track with all of its elevation changes. I think probably the most distinct feature of this track, Randall.
Absolutely. It is one of those tracks that does have a lot of elevation changes, and we're going to jump on board now with a driver coming through turn 1 currently, and we're seeing him now up to turn 2 in the Druids. And this is a very tight corner. You want to keep there on the curb. You want to be very patient when you get to the throttle, or else you can really induce a lot of oversteer in a very tricky corner downhill here in turn 3, and then run all the way out. Use that coping there on the side, or the pavers there on the outside, and open up your entry to turn 4 as much as possible. It's a nice late apex. Really important to get this corner right, because if you don't, you're really paying the price the entire way down this straightaway. This is the longest straightaway on the track. You need to get it absolutely right in order to get a good lap time, and then set up for the very fast turn 5. You don't have to slow down nearly as much as you think on these cold tires, probably slowing down just a little bit more. And as they get heated in those tires, you'll see them really dive into that corner, and then into a very quick turn 6. You want to clip and cut that apex curbing enough that you don't get the off track, but you want to take the shortest line possible. Then the trickiest corner on the track, turn 7, uphill, blind, over a crest, got to clip that apex curbing, bring the car back to the right, and then turn left hard into Sterling's. This is where I've been seeing the driver struggle the most, is coming off Sterling's, really losing the rear end of the car, bringing the car back to the left-hand side of the track for a very tricky transitional turn over a crest. There's a final turn of the track as you turn onto the notch straightaway and complete a flying lap and try to get their best time laid down in that time.
I believe that was Matt Malone we were following along with. Now, you mentioned Sterling's, and as we were riding on board, I was keeping an eye on that steering wheel. A little bit of counter steering going on there, so I think you're exactly right. It's going to be a trouble spot for these guys, as will a few other places on this track. But now we got Taco Phil, Mr. Keck himself, working his way around the track, maybe getting a 1X there. That's not going to help your time, buddy. But he's going to see where he shakes out.
Taking over the soundboard responsibilities from our previous broadcaster, Corey Silver, who was unfortunately no longer able to carry this league, but we're carrying on without him right now. We're watching Taco Phil make his run on a lap right now. He's sitting in 6th place, so not too bad. We'll see if he can improve his position any.
Yeah, P6, not bad at all when you consider the fact that there is darn near 50 cars or so. I don't have the total count but there is a lot of cars in this field. So anytime you're in the top 10 in AMS, you're doing pretty good for yourself. And Phil himself, when he was able to race last year, I know he missed a few races last season, but when he did show up, he really showed up. He was on a bit of a burner towards the end of the season, and looks like he's carrying that momentum into the new year.
Absolutely. We're glad to see him back. He did miss a few of the races last season, so good to see him back, hopefully here for the full schedule. And if not, hopefully he will only need to use both of those drop weeks and not miss any more besides that. Now we're going to take a look here at Eli Clough, the other Taco Bell car, not to be confused with Phil Keck, but he does run a similar paint job. And where's that button? Right there, Taco Bell. Everybody's making a run for the border. Eli Clough sitting in 18th currently. And if you look at the class distribution right now, we're seeing a lot of green up top and then a lot of red. If I look on the live timing screen, I'm seeing a bit of mix up with the Challenger division. I don't think so. Right now, all the drivers in red are showing as being amateurs, and I'm not seeing any of the Challengers mixed in there. So I don't know if the timing is accurate or not, because right now in P10, I'm showing Matt Thompson, the 108 car, and we're seeing on screen it is Dave Moore. So maybe we have some issues with our live timing, and you're gonna have to forgive us, folks. This is the first time back with this broadcaster. We had a lot of setup tweaking to do, so some things might not be absolutely perfect, but we will take a look at, and it looks like maybe it's just an issue on my side as I look at the broadcast itself. Yeah. So right now we have 3 divisions of drivers. The green drivers are your pro division drivers. They will have the numbers 1 through 99, with the 1 being reserved for last season's champion, the man on screen right now, Jack Sanchez. And then the cars with the blue number plates and the number range 100 to 199, that's our Challenger division, the middle division. And then the drivers with the red number plates and numbers 200 to 299 is the amateur division. So 3 divisions of drivers here. And Andre, what's it like out here trying to navigate 3 different divisions of the same classic car?
Well, it's honestly, I think it's kind of nice for these drivers because you know exactly what you're up against when you come up on somebody. You know where they stack out. Are they new to the league? Are they established? What is their general skill range? And as a driver, knowing who you're around, knowing what to expect is a massive benefit. Especially as the season goes on, these guys are going to get to know each other even better. They know how each other race and everything like that. But then this is race 1, right? And that ranking, that little title, Challenger, Amateur, Pro, that's all they have. That's all they have to go off of right now for these new guys. And it'll be a learning curve all year long.
That's absolutely right. They can see some of this stuff in the sim as well, so they know who they're racing against. A lot of the drivers coming back from last year, but there are quite a few names. As we run through the grid after qualifying, we'll be able to point out to you some of those new names and new drivers to the series, a lot of them in the pro division. And I was looking through the roster for this season, and let me tell you, the Challenger division is absolutely stacked. It is going to be an absolute fist fight for the Challenger Division Championship this season. Keep your eyes on the cars with the blue number plates on the timing tower because it's going to be a wild one.
Challenger always puts on quite a good show as far as the points are concerned. It was close last year. I keep saying last season, and it was close the season before that. So Challenger, I think, is just perfect. It's in that middle range of skill where mistakes are made. You know, some drivers might mess up now and again. They're not perfect. But they're good enough that it really puts on a great battle between everybody in that class. But I'll tell you, amateur was great last year too. There were some standout stars in the amateur class. I believe a couple drivers, and you would know better than I, Randall. I believe a couple amateurs went straight to pro.
There were a couple drivers that possibly went to pro. One of them in particular is Jeff Schnackel, but he only went up to Challenger. We're going to see how he fares there. He might still get promoted, but we're going to see how that looks out. Cars are taking to the grid. We're going to try to get you that starting grid as soon as possible here on screen. And if you take a look, Luis Henriquez last season, he was fighting for the win here and suddenly had a disconnect with 2 laps to go, puts the car onto the pole position. Starting in second place, next to him is David Finch. Evan Hubchak is going to start third with Kevin Buchholz, and fourth, Luke Sudengay is starting P5. P6, Fabian Zweyer, an old name returning to the league, and then a new name alongside of him or behind them in the form of Taylor Billant. He is starting next to the ever popular and ever famous Matt Malone. Phil Keck is going to start P9. Jeff Schnackel, we were just talking about him, will be on your Challenger pole position and rounds out the top 10.
Looking outside of the top 10, it looks like Jack Sanchez, P11. Matt Thompson to his outside in 12th. David Moore going to be P13. 14th finds Neil Kemp. If you look back to 15th, you'll find Brandon Brush, and 16th belongs to Andrew Bailing. Charlie Hosey is going to be at P17. 18th goes to Jay Bass. Ryan Campbell, P19. Running out the top 20, going to be Levi Powell.
21st, another new driver, Matt Best, starting alongside one of our favorite drivers in this league, Dahan O'Toole in the number 29 Mustang. Behind them, the return of Edgar Sanchinelli, going to be starting in 23rd. Matthew Gazinda next to him in 24th. And let me find the button. I need the button. It's Aaron That Face Bray starting in 25th. 26th, Cam DeDecker. And then 27th, I want another new driver in the Pro Division, Daniel McConnell. 28th, a long-time fan of the Mustangs and an old school driver here in the Mustang League, returning after a long break, Tony Morano. 29th, Brandon Smith with Mike Pico, another new driver rounding out the top 30.
And P31 finds Freddie Weaver and Jay Little to his outside. Then you got Jeff Andrus, 33rd. 34th, Eli Kloft. Then you got Samuel Stoner, 35th. Mark Royce going to roll off 36th. He's got Scott Brooks behind him. And alongside Scott Brooks going to be Sean Johnson in 38th. 39 and 40 going to Jeff Bernard and Tom Wendt. Rounding out the rest of the field quickly, Daniel Gabaldon. You got Dave Blair, I apologize. 43rd, John Casey. 44, Chuck Labano for Frito Sport. Stefan Price going to be P45. And shotgun on the field, P46, Chris Logan.
46 cars to take the green flag here at Brands Hatch. Wow. Get ready for a wild turn one. It's going to be an absolute traffic jam coming up over that hill and then down the hill and up the hill again to the run to Druids. So we'll see if everybody's able to keep it in line here as Barney's about to get that green flag in the air. The lights are on and we're just waiting for them to go out. Green flag and the cars are underway, and we're underway for a new season here of the American Muscle Series on slow motion broadcasting. Luis Henriquez is going to lead the way to turn one. He's going to retain that lead, and it's an absolute parking lot behind him. All these cars trying to file their way through turn one, trying to find a spot in line to try to get single file for turn two, but it doesn't look like they're going to get there. We're seeing them two by two all the way through. There's some trouble there on the outside. Somebody's getting shoved around. We got a spinner. And we got more trouble up ahead, and is that no, that's not Matt. He may have been involved in that, but I don't think that was Matt Malone. I'm trying to see who's dropping down the charts here. We have a couple drivers dropping down the standings. Looks like that was Neil Kemp involved in that second incident. Not sure who was involved in that first incident, but now the drivers starting to get themselves worked out in single file line. What do you do now, Andre?
Now you hold on, because it ain't over yet. They are still too wide at places, and even when they're not too wide, they are still bumper to bumper on this very narrow, winding track. These corners are unforgiving enough when you're by yourself, let alone when you're in the fray here, as we follow along with the 152 in the middle of his own little hornet's nest there. But luckily, it seems like the too wide that we were seeing is starting to kind of fade out a little bit. These guys are finding their position on the track, and now they can get to kind of find a rhythm. Hard to do so when you're side by side, but once you get out by yourself, you get that rhythm, you start clicking off laps, and you got to get in the zone for 40 minutes here, as well as a pit stop likely halfway. But right now, the focus is just to keep the car clean, and that is exactly what Luis Henriquez is doing. He is pulling away from these guys. I mean, he's got a 1.5 second gap within the first lap. Evan Hoopchak, P2, and he himself has about a second over David Finch, but behind them, that's where the chaos begins. Luke Sudengay, Matt Malone, Kevin Buckles, these drivers bumper to bumper, side by side, and this is what we are going to see all night long. Riding on board there, you can see how much they're cranking on the wheel. A little bit of 3 wide down to 2 wide action.
Look like Sudengay getting a little tail happy there on the exit of Druids, but you got to kind of expect that when you're stuck there on the inside. It's really easy to get bound up. These drivers trying to work themselves out. They need to make sure that the leaders don't pull too far away, because it's easy for Luis and Evan to be able to just walk away. That gap is getting bigger. Ooh. Looks like Hoopchak able to pull in Luis a little bit. They're getting a little feisty here, very early doors in this season, in this race. And Jack Sanchez started back in 11th and now is starting to try to make his way up to the front. We're used to seeing him fight for the lead. He's got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, honestly, this is kind of Jack's MO. He does not always qualify the best. He might be the best in race trim as he's got chaos in front of him. That is Belant going off into the kitty litter. He's going to have to try and get that thing sort of back out. But as I was saying, Jack Sanchez, not always the best qualifier, but often one of the best in race pace. So he finds himself passing a lot of cars every single week. And again, he's up to the challenge here. He's up 3 from where he began. He's got Phil behind him there, Taco Phil. Next car in line is going to be, it looks like Kevin Buckles, who actually did drop a few positions in that scuffle with Matt Malone.
So I'm hearing in my ear that we might have some replays loaded up for some of the incidents that happened on the first lap. We'll see what was going on here at the start. We're seeing some wildness. Somebody missed a shift, it looks like, here on the start, and caused a little bit of a jam up on the front straightaway, but everybody was able to get going, and they were clean all the way down through turn 1. It looked like, oh, there's a little bump and run there for Daniel Gobelin, and he's going to regret that happening. He's probably going to be trying to find out whose number that was. And then Mike Pico, one of the newcomers to the league, is here on the outside through turn 1, and then it looks like he's pretty clean through here, and then on the run up to turn 2, we'll see what happens. Oh, and it just looks like chaos.
Yeah, it broke out in front of him. He did a good job avoiding it right until there. Not much you can do.
And he's just pushing. He's like, get out of my way. I want to race. I just want to race. So he's getting held up here early. That was like Tony Morano spinning across. So we're back here to live pictures on watching Jack Sanchez. And I hear we have another point of view of that incident from the view of Tony Morano, who is the last car Mike Pico encountered in that scrum. And we see exactly what happened here as he makes his way through turn 1, and he runs a little bit wide there, but it's no contact. It's good now, but they're up from turn 2. Looks like the door gets closed on him a little bit, and he just misjudges the brake marker. And yeah, he's going to be kicking himself for that one. We'll see what the stewards say about that, and then ends up spinning across and taking out a couple people with him in the process. Nobody wants to be patient here, so maybe the race administrator is going to have a talk with a few of these drivers as we once again rejoin live picture with Luis Enriquez still in the lead over Heaven Hoopchak over David Finch. And we're taking a look here at a battle. This looks like it's Edgar Santinelli in a fight with Dahan O'Toole.
Yeah, Dahan O'Toole working his way around the outside. He's tried everything. We've kind of been following along loosely. He's looked low, he's looked high. He's not been able to find his way around quite yet. But he does seem to be right there on pace. And again, in this league, it seems to be the case so often. Everybody's so close as far as lap times are concerned, as far as handling is concerned, that it really just boils down to who makes a mistake first. And until then, you just have to ride around and wait for the opportunity to present itself. And speaking of opportunities, here goes Matt Malone to the outside. Gets a little bit of a run down this straightaway you talked about, Randall, and how important it is. Well, it almost got him the overtake into the high-speed right-hander, but not quite. Has a little bit of defense out of, I believe, Thompson there is going to keep that position safe.
So I hate to correct you here, but that's a different Matt. That's Matt Best following Matt Thompson. He's running a Malone paint job, so I think that is either very similar to Malone's paint job or possibly the Malone Patreon paint job. I'm not sure what the Patreon paint job looks right now. But yes, that is not Matt Malone. That is actually Matt Best, one of the newcomers to the league. And yes, the paint looks very, very similar to Matt Malone, so I can see where you would be confused. We're about almost 7 minutes into this race, and it seems to be flying by so far. They do have to make one pit stop for fuel in this unless they really, really stretch it out. But it's going to be so far to stretch that it's not really worth it. Trying to see, doesn't look like anybody's come in for service quite yet. This may be some people that have crashed, but on the timing screen, I'm not really seeing anybody coming in for a normal pit stop. They're still duking it out here. Taco Phil defending against Andrew Bailing into turn 2. Andrew Bailing is going to end up keeping that spot. He came under pressure from Jeff Schnackel from behind during all that. So Schnackel right now is currently your challenger leader, and he's knocking on the door of the top 10.
I can't believe how much of the track these guys are using. I mean, that's not even the track. That's just about half a foot of runoff they are given, and they are using it to get every little bit of speed out of this car that they possibly can. And it just looks like they're about to do some lawn maintenance out there, but they always get back on the track somehow. And again, as far as the track of Brands Hatch is concerned on iRacing, that is not a 1X. That is the racing surface they're allowed to dip out there, and the game doesn't really care. So it's always fun to watch and a little bit startling if you forget where they're at on the track and you see that. You think, oh my goodness, you're going off the track. But in the meantime, still single file, and you are correct. That is the Matt Malone Patreon paint scheme. So I was wrong. 60% of the time, I'm right every time. That was one of the times I was not. It was indeed Matt Best. But Luis Enriquez, still 1.4 seconds. Luke Chalk just lingering right there. That gap has remained the exact same for the last 8 minutes of this race. One driver who is closing in, though, David Finch. He's been getting a little bit quicker, lap after lap, closing in just a little bit on second place. So we'll see if he can close in on them by the time they come down pit road, which that pit stop does so often. Randall shuffle up the running order, depending on who gets the short pit, who gets the long run strategy, who saves their tires, who doesn't. And I'm going to ask you, because I'm assuming you've made some laps, at least a few, Randall. How much tire wear is there going to be for these guys tonight here?
So this is one of those tracks where before they changed the tire model, taking 2 tires was definitely the strategy. This is a track that will eat up your tires. It's very, very easy to overwork your tires. And even after the tire model changed, where they have to run an increased air pressure, they won't be taking tires because the warm-up time is too long, but it is still easy to overcook those tires. So if you take it a little bit easy here in the first half of the race, you can find yourself with a little bit more to fight with here at the end of the race. So maybe some of these drivers are playing the long game and not looking to be too fighty right now, but we see Matt Malone right there on the tail end of Luke Sudengay, and it's not an unfamiliar sight in this league. They do a lot of very close racing here in the American Muscle Series, currently with the fastest lap, Matt Malone, so getting some benefit of slipstream in this as well.
A 1:37.95. He is the only driver in that 1:37 bracket. Again, Matt, a very quick driver. He, I believe, is a previous winner in this league. Correct me if I'm wrong, but always a threat, always inside the top 10. And this week's just got a little bit of work cut out for him, qualified a little bit further back and has some traffic to contend with. But like you said, we can expect a splash and go when they finally do pit, which makes it interesting, because like you said, if you take it easy now, you save those tires at the time, then maybe at the end of the race you got just a little bit of an edge on everybody else. And in a game of inches where everybody's bumper to bumper a few percent on the tires, it could make the world of difference. So this is going to be fun to see.
It absolutely does. And the other thing you really need to look out for here at this track in particular is how they enforce the pit entry. If you see any drivers get onto that green paint on the pit entry, they're likely going to get an unsafe entry penalty. So we might see some of these positions decided by penalties. So sometimes you really want to attack that pit entry and you just need to back off a little bit to make sure you don't get a penalty, because it'll be way slower to sit there for an extra 40 seconds.
Absolutely. And ironically, Matt Malone, no stranger to dangerous pit road entries from last season. He had a bit of a kerfuffle there. But in the meantime, they are still focused on clicking off laps. They're not thinking about pit road yet. We're still a ways off. We're only 11 minutes into this thing. And some of these drivers last year started to really stretch it out. Like you said, once the tire model changed and the warm-up time became a little bit too long to be worth it, these guys would come down pit road with 8 minutes to go, 7 minutes to go. I mean, they were stretching it as far on fuel as they could because the tires themselves didn't matter much. So they just wanted to stay out and make sure that everything stayed clean.
The car is limited to 40% of its maximum fuel. That's normally enough for about 25 to 30 minutes of runtime in these cars. So it gives them a nice wide pit window. It allows for a big variety in pit strategy. Sometimes you can pit yourself out of traffic and maybe find some clean air and get some quality pace laps, as we see Jeff Schnackel having to fight back against Andrew Bailing here on he had to take the outside, but gets a good run off the corner and is easily clear of Andrew going into turn 2. And they're stacking up behind. They're getting eager. They really want to fight. As he gets a big wiggle coming off turn 2, he's going to give up the inside for turn 3. Bailing's going to stick the nose in there. He's going to get the move done, and a little bit of another wiggle there out of Schnackel. Bailing's going to take that position. Schnackel's going to lose 4 or 5 in the process.
Tell you what, he lost 5 positions, but he is lucky he got back on track safely, because once he was out in the grass, there was just a line of cars waiting to shut the door, and they graciously allowed him to re-enter without causing too much chaos. That was a great piece of driving by Schnackel to keep a level head and get that thing back on the blacktop where it should be. Again, nobody likes losing positions, but you got to make the best out of a bad situation, and that is exactly what he just did.
Jay Bass was looking opportunistic there. Now he's fallen down in this pack. Dave Moore's moved his way up to second place in this group. So a couple drivers gaining positions, then losing them, gaining them back, and a big shuffle going on, all just in the space of a couple corners. So a track not really known for its great passing opportunities. You get one little battle going. We're going to take a look at this pass again. We're going to see Schnackel get out there in the grass and really has to gather it up. And you're right, he's lucky he kept that pointed in a straight line. A lot of times you get out there in the grass, it turns into Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. You got a wheel and you can turn it all you like, but it's not going to do anything.
And you saw every other driver in that line dart to the left as soon as Schnackel went off the blacktop. That was making room for him to come back down. Just great awareness by everybody in general. And that is one thing in this league, of all the leagues that I've ever covered, as far as oval, road course, anything like that, the general awareness in AMS is impressive. All throughout the field, front to back, you see some really, really alert drivers on the track week in and week out, and that's just another example of it.
And if you look at that leaderboard, Jeff Schnackel, having lost those positions, is now back to 15th, and look who's right behind him, your boy Charlie Hosey.
I am the Hosey Truther, formerly a Hosea Truther, as the ticker would have called him for about a year, and he never corrected us. But
whoa, big trouble there. It was that Tyler Balance getting very loose in front of the other drivers there. Schnackel had to make some evasive maneuvers and they managed to get it all worked out. No harm done to anybody, but boy, I really hope Schnackel wore his brown driving suit this week.
Yeah, he's going to need it. He's off into the grass again, but this is the battle for the Challenger Division lead between Charlie Hosey and Jeff Schnackel. And sideways again, we're cranking on the wheel. Hold on to her, buddy. He's got it. That is Taylor Ballant after the race. But he held on to it.
That's one of those corners where you're very eager to get back to the throttle because you have that big, long straightaway, but he got just a little bit too greedy and ended up running wide and got into that grass, and it really took him for a ride.
Yes, that it did. Now this battle can continue again for the Challenger lead at the moment. P14 overall, but the division lead between Schnackel and Hosey. Charlie Hosey, always a threat in his division. Had a great season last season, and we're going to see if he can carry that on.
Oh, but Lant running wide.
He is struggling with that car.
He's taking the scenic route. You gotta think that he's probably cooked those tires a little bit. He needs to back it down a little bit, let them things cool down. He's probably really struggling for grip. I'd also like to shout out the car in 26th position right now. Your amateur leader, Tom Went, he's got it painted on his car a little bit better. He's getting a little bit better. Oh, it was that Sam Stoner getting a little bit loose and possibly, yes, into the barrier coming off the exit of turn 2.
Looks like he's got a little bit of front end damage. I would imagine the radiator's probably punched in. But we'll take a look at a replay, exactly how this transpired. So dips 2 tires into the grass, and that is all it took, Randall.
And look at all the gravel that was there on the outside of the track. No wonder he was having problems getting that car to turn. Once you get out there in that gravel, the grip just goes away. All that gravel that's been pulled on the track. And who's that? That's Mike Pico, who was involved in that lap 1 incident. He's now a lap down and was in amidst some of these drivers, and it looks like he's taking the tow. He's probably going to hang it up. He's had a rough day here at Brands Hatch.
Here's a few drivers having a rough day out here, and among them is Taylor Ballant. You can see him back there doing more lawn mowing. I'm not sure if he's here as a driver or as a groundskeeper, because he is cutting more grass, I think, than anybody else. And like you said, he's probably cooked those tires. They're screaming at him right now, and he just can't quite get through the corner. You can see, even in this right-hander, just a bit of a four-wheel slide there. He's got to back it off a little bit, let those tires cool down and regroup. The car itself, not really damaged, so no worries there. Just take a breather, get back in it. Meanwhile, not Matt Malone, the other Matt Best, still battling with Dahan 02, although it seems like the roles are reversed. Now Matt Best on the attack, whereas he was playing defense before.
We might have to say that he's the best Matt Best, as he's fighting here with the Hano 2. It is very tight. They're both going to have a really bad run off that corner, and we're going to be going 2 by 2. And don't look who's on the back of this, Tyler Ballant, who's really been struggling the past couple laps with those tires. Is he got it under control now? He's got a lot of pace here. He's going to give a little bit of a push there, it looks like, to Edgar Sanchinelli, and going to be looking to get that position. Seen a lot of fighting here in the mid-pack. in the mid part of this race, we're going to see drivers come into pit lane here any time now to start taking service. Whew, I'm glad I'm not in one of these cars right now, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, you had your fair share of exciting moments last season, Randall. You had some ones for the highlight reel, but up in the booth, it's a lot more fun because you can just kind of watch and laugh and have fun and not be so invested in the outcome, so to speak. So welcome back to the booth, Mr. McGrew. But in the meantime, I do want to point out while we watch this battle, it seems as though Matt Malone has worked his way up to third. He is past Fabian's wire, and he is now up into a podium position from where he qualified. I believe it's up 5. So he's continuing his march, this battle continuing, and we got a taker down pit road. That is going to be Sancinelli, I believe.
Yes, it was Edgar Sancinelli, and we saw Evan Hubchak actually pitted out of second place, so he was the first of the drivers to come in to get service. We see him now exiting the pit lane. Going to see what his stop time was. Evan Hubchak was stationary for 15.7 seconds, so that's a pretty long stop. We'll see how long Ed Sancinelli is stopped in comparison, and he stopped for even longer. We're going on 18 seconds now for him, so he's going to be in the box for quite a long time. Makes you wonder, Sam Stoner came in with a 37-second pit stop. Maybe he was coming in for regular service. Sancinelli now cresting 30 seconds, still in the box. So maybe taking some repairs to that car. Didn't look like he had much damage. So we'll see when he comes out of the pit lane. And yeah, so a couple drivers coming in now, but we'll start seeing them trickle in more and more lap by lap.
Yeah, we will. And I actually did notice the jack stands going up on Sancinelli's car, so whether it was intentional or not, I believe he's got a fresh set of Goodyears on that bad boy, and we'll see if he can get him up to 10th, but I did not expect to see too many jack stands going up as he is working his way out of the pits finally. Again, like you said, long stop for that number 180, but he is working his way past the Armco barriers back to the racing surface to see where he shuffles out. The leaders have yet to pit. Enriquez still in the lead, David Finch, Matt Malone, Fabian Dwyer, Luke Sudengay, Jack Sanchez, P6. None of those drivers have come down pit road. But, man, so many damaged cars on pit road from that early chaos. Things have luckily settled down since then. But now following along with this gaggle of cars, this is behind our leader. You can see Henriquez up the road by something to the tune of about 2 seconds. And then you got these guys who are not going to let each other by easily. They're going to be kicking and screaming and dragging each other back, I think, if they have anything to say about it, trying to fight for that P2 while the leader runs off into the sunset. There is Taylor trying to get that car sorted out from his prior troubles. Maybe he'll have a better second stint.
Taylor Belant is one of the new drivers of the league, so maybe not as much experience in the Mustang as some of these other guys out here, but he'll get a handle for over 12 races this season. He'll get a good handle on that car and become way more competitive. Struggling here today, and I gotta say, if this is your first induction into the Mustang, Brands Hatch is a very tricky track to take it to. So he's got his hands full for the rest of this race. As we watch here with 10th place Brandon Brush leading this little group. He's under pressure from Jeff Schnockel as they're in the back half of the lap now. Coming up to one of the trickier corners of the track here at the top of the hill. It's blind, and you got to use as much of the track as you can. You got to cut that apex curve. You want to cut it as much as possible, but you don't want to end up out there in the grass. They're all doing a really good job right now. It seems like everybody's really found their pace, found their feet in the car, except with a few notable exceptions. But Taylor Belant going to come out of pit lane into the leader, so he's now becoming a lap down car. So he's going to have to wait until the leader's pit to get his lap back, unless he's suddenly found a big burst of speed. But he's now injected himself into this battle for the lead. So we'll see how he handles this. The drivers are reminded in this league that the blue flag is informational only. There's no F1 malarkey going on here. If you're gonna get around a blue flag car, you gotta get around them.
Yeah, obviously everybody out here is running their own race, and they have the right to, do so, to run their race and run their pace. Obviously, they're going to try to be respectful to one another, but like you said, there's no rule saying, hey, if the leaders are coming up behind you, you got to pull off the track. I mean, he can stay right there and try to get this figured out until they come down pit road, which is probably not what they want to see, but again, has every right to do so. So we'll see how that plays out. But looking back from the rear bumper of Malone, you can see these drivers still just in an all-out fight here, bumper to bumper. These guys have not left each other alone for the entire race. It has been 22 minutes. These drivers have been right with one another, And so often the case when you get a gaggle of cars like this, it kind of slows you down a little bit because you're fighting with each other. You're not focused on the leader, and that is exactly what's happening. That is why Luis Enriquez continues to expand his lead. He doesn't have a care in the world. He's got practically no traffic.
Oh, he's got some care right there.
I say as that happens, but 99% of the time he's got no traffic, nothing to worry about. He can just click off his laps, and then the other 1%, well, something like that happens.
And don't look now on the back end of this lead pack. Look who that is. The #1 car, Jack Sanchez, has made his way up to 6th place. He's joined the lead pack. There's a bit of a gap back from Luis to these guys, but it's not an insurmountable gap. So he's going to be looking to get a few positions here on pit strategy, and then the rest of them on track, and maybe he could track down Luis.
Yeah, I think if he could just get the track position, if he could just get a little bit of clean air, he'd have the pace to do it. I mean, nobody's doubting Jack Sanchez's pace, but with Brands Hatch, it's such a narrow racetrack, so few real passing opportunities. With the way that this place is designed, you just kind of have to wait it out unless you want to get really aggressive. And if anybody's going to get aggressive, it's going to be Sanchez. And I think you're acutely aware of that, Randall. I think you've been on the receiving end of that aggression.
Jack Sanchez is well known in the league for his aggression, and I will be the first to admit that I think that he's pretty clean with his aggression most of the time, and sometimes he pushes just a little bit too hard, but we've all been guilty of that. Everybody does that sometimes. I really like racing with Jack. I think he's great to have in the league, and he's the defending champion for a reason. The boy is fast and he knows how to pass people.
Yes, he does. And he knows when to crank up the aggression, too. He's not going to be on your bumper trying to spin you out with, 20 minutes left in the race. But when it gets down to 5-6 minutes left, he's not afraid to use the chrome horn and maybe move you up a half a lane just to get the nose underneath you. And he's good at it. He can move you without wrecking you. And that's a talent that in any sort of non-open wheel racing is definitely a virtue, as long as you don't take it too far. And like you said, most of the time he doesn't take it too far. He's very smart with it. And we'll see what he does. I mean, he's in position to try to make something of it once this gets down to the wire. But for right now, with everybody coming down pit road, it is just marking the end of the first stint for these drivers. There goes Dehano too. I believe he has yet to come down pit road as well in that number 29.
We saw Dave Finch and Luke Sudengate in the pit lane. We also see Matt Thompson coming into the pit lane. Sudengate kind of taking a long stop here. Maybe the jacks went up for him as well. He's been stopped for almost 40 seconds now, so maybe Sudengate sneaking 2 tires here. I know another thing that's caught a few of these drivers out ever since they introduced rain for this car is sometimes the sim will revert to rain tires by default, and they won't realize it, and they'll have to come in and change tires to get off of those rain tires. Hopefully that didn't happen to any of these drivers, but it has caught a few drivers out towards the tail end of last season. So hopefully none of those mistakes going on, possibly why we see a couple drivers take tires when normally not taking tires is the right call for this league. Matt Thompson comes out of the pit lane. His stop time, he was stopped for only 13 seconds, so a little bit shorter than other drivers, so we'll have to keep an eye on him and see. Hopefully he doesn't get what we have in slow motion broadcasting known as the Thompson Trophy for fuel management, brought to you by Adam Thompson, because he's terrible at fuel management. Hopefully he won't have to come in for a splash and go. Now the leader, Luis Enriquez, is in pit lane. Fabian Zweyer, Dave Moore, all in pit lane, all contenders for the win of this race. Also Jeff Schnackle coming into pit lane out of the Challenger lead. We'll see where these drivers come out. Keep your eye on Luis Enriquez. Keep your eye on where on track is Evan Hoopchak, because he was the first driver to come in out of this lead group. He hit from second place. Luis is going to come out behind Dehano Toot. Dehan still needs to pit, so not really the leader here, but your effective leader is still going to be Luis Enriquez. It doesn't look like Evan was able to get back up and pass Luis in pit strategy alone, so he had to deal with some traffic or just didn't have the pace. Jeff Schnackle coming out of the pits, and we're seeing a lot of traffic on pit lane now, so we'll see where this all shakes out, and hopefully we have a nice good race on our hands at the finish. Now after this pit stop there, do you think they're going to start dialing up that aggression? Are we going to get a little bit of physicality here, you think?
Oh yeah, I think we're going to see it, especially out of Jack Sanchez. Like I said, once it gets down to the wire, Jack is a driver who is not afraid to get his hands a little dirty, and I mean, there's no reason to do that prior to the pit stop. But now, gloves are off. It is time to go, and I think everybody knows that. Malone knows it, Finch knows it, and more importantly, the previous leader, Henriquez, also knows that. So you might have to get on the defensive as they work their way through this cycle. Here comes one of the Matt Malone cars. I believe that is the Matt Malone down pit road. Yes, it is number 83 getting his car serviced. And I'll tell you what, if you are a gas man on a pit crew here in American Muscle Series, a fast pit stop could be a massive pay raise, or it could be your job, depending on if your driver actually makes it to the end. And that 13-second pit stop we saw out of Thompson, it's got me a little concerned there, Randall.
As it looks like everybody that had not pit yet out of the lead has now come in. Luis Enriquez should be re-inheriting the lead as he goes by Matt Malone coming out of the pit lane. He does indeed retake the lead, and it has a nice little gap, 2.5 seconds back to Matt Malone. But look who's right there on Matt Malone's bumper. Jack Sanchez jumps from 6th or 7th place up to 3rd place after the pit cycle. Oh no, Matt's going to have his hands full here.
Oh yeah, Matt's probably looking in the mirror, and he's probably realizing he's in danger because Sanchez is on the podium. It's about 11 minutes remaining in this race. This is when the aggression gets dialed up, and if you're in the way, well, you might not be in the way long. You might get forcefully removed from the way, in fact. So we'll see how this top 3 shakes out. Again, given a little bit of separation, a little bit of breathing room by that pit stop, he kind of got them separated, but meanwhile, they are going to close in on one another. I believe Sanchez may be within slipstream distance for that long straightaway as well. Something to keep in mind there. Fabian Zweier is P4. He's a little bit further back from Sanchez, about 2 seconds behind him. David Finch was 3rd coming into this pit sequence, and then wound up losing a little bit there in the pit stall. Evan Hubchak, P6. Kevin Buckles, 7th, and Phil Keck, who was up in 3rd earlier tonight, down in 8th after everything has shuffled out. But still a few drivers, I believe, remaining. Jeff Andrus has not come down pit road. We know Schnackle did. So
it looks like Andrus is the only one that hasn't pit, so he was able to stretch that car out and get another lap out of it. So he's got a lap led on the Challenger division. We'll take a look back. Who's leading right now in the Amateur division? And it's good old Dave Blair leading the way in the amateur division, sitting in 21st spot. So 21st for the amateur drivers in a field like this, that's a pretty dang good run. Let's see if he can keep this together.
Yes, absolutely. And just an update to the fast lap. It has been taken from Matt Malone. And you want to take one guess who took it?
I'm going to guess that it's the guy that's passed the most cars, Jack Sanchez.
Indeed, you would be correct. 137.8 for Jack Sanchez to Matt Malone's 137.9. There is now more drivers in that 37 bracket. We do have David Finch with a 137 and Evan Hubchak with a 137. Actually, only 0.02 of a second off of Jack Sanchez is Hubchak with a 137.859 to an 857. So extremely close.
And I'm just looking at the pit lane times. It seems like the further up front you are, the better your pit lane time. And a few of these drivers that were up front earlier and are now not up front had slower pit stops. So that pit lane time and the pit stop time are crucial, and it has such a huge impact. So it looks like pit strategy is playing a big role here today. But we got to fight for the lead here. Matt Malone is trying like heck to run away from Jack Sanchez, and if I'm in Luis's chair, I'm probably reaching up and snapping that rear view mirror off. I don't want to know what's going on back there. I'm just trying to click off fast laps.
Man, I turn off the rear view mirror in just about every racing game I've ever played. I'm too anxious for that. I don't want to know. Look, if you're close enough, I'm going to hear the motor anyway. So I wouldn't blame him if he does turn it off.
So a bit stretched out up here up front, and then we got some tight fighting going on back further in the field, and some positions still up for grabs. And I gotta say again, Dave Blair up in 21st place. I said Jack Sanchez was the one that passed the most cars, and I would be wrong. It's Dave Blair. He's up 21 positions from where he started, with a strong lead in the amateur division.
Yeah, passing 21 cars is nothing to scoff at. That is really impressive for the current amateur leader in that 236 car. Let's see, what is his best lap on the night? About a 140.1. So as far as amateurs go, that is a good lap time to have. And passing a ton of cars, making a good showing on his first outing of the season here, and definitely looking to have a good rest of the year if he can keep this up. But continuing to kind of ride on board, follow along a little bit. And there is Dave Finch, who again got shuffled back just a little bit through that pit sequence, knocked off the podium down to P5, but again, everything is so close, no breathing room of his own in the middle of a sandwich here as the 3 podium drivers are off into the sunset. These guys still got a battle.
Absolutely. Finch all over the back of Zweier right now and not letting up at all. And this is a 4-car battle. Any of these drivers could win this group right here. And it's not uncommon for us to see a 3-wide or possibly even a 4-wide finish at a track like this. This track very conducive to exciting finishes. So keep your eye on this group and see who's going to come out on top. Jeff Schnackle leading the way in 10th place in the Challenger division. Dave Blair's up to 20th, still leading the way in amateur. We got some good races going on here. Charlie Hosey's going to have to get a move on if he's going to get around Brandon Brush, get up there to Schnackle and challenge for that Challenger win. Right now, this is Zweier, who's got a rear view mirror full of Dave Finch. We've seen Dave off into the kitty litter a couple times tonight. He seems to have figured it out and is now really dialing up the pressure here in the closing stages of the race. 6 minutes left to go in this race, so probably about 3 more laps, 4 more laps possibly, and we'll be seeing that checkered flag. So the gloves are going to start going out the window as Finch has a mistake here in turn 5 and is going to run a little bit wide and give up a few spots.
Yeah, he's going to drop a couple of positions there, but again, back on the track, very similar to what we saw Schnackle do earlier. Just an update in the battle for the lead. Last time by, Matt Malone was the fastest of the top 3. In fact, he had 5/10 faster that lap than the leader, Luis Enriquez, and he was about 3/10 faster than the car behind of Jack Sanchez. So he is on the move. And again, he just crossed the line once more, took another 10th out of Luis Enriquez. But Jack Sanchez takes a 10th out of Malone, so they're kind of trading the lap times back and forth. But regardless of that, the trend here is that second and third are consistently lapping faster than Enriquez. 1 second is going to be the gap now with only about 5 minutes remaining in this race. They've got the time. The question is, once they get there, can they make the move? Because I think they're going to get there.
And I'm looking at the projected lap count, and it's right at 24 laps. So we probably won't see a 25th lap out of these drivers. So 24 laps to get it done. They're serving lap 22 now, so that means 2 to go next time by. And yes, you're absolutely right. Matt Malone is really closing down that gap on Luis Enriquez. They had a bit of lap traffic there to deal with. It might have helped Malone catch, and maybe it will help Sanchez catch both of them. And then they have a nice big opening in front of them. It's going to be about 14 seconds up to the next lap down car for Luis Enriquez. So he just needs to set some quality pace laps because the 2 drivers behind him are trying to do the same.
And it was a great corner for Matt Malone. He took another 10th out of the leader in that corner alone, brought the gap down to 9/10 of a second. So under a second for the first time since they came out of the pits. Time is running out. It is urgent. You can see the brake lights flashing on and off on the leader. He's pedaling that brake pedal now. I got to ask you, Randall, is that the driving strategy, or is he not liking the handling of that car, having to feather the brakes?
It looks like he's having to feather him, like you said, just a little bit to get that front end to work, possibly on corner entry. Sometimes this car, you can drag a little bit of trail brake and it won't actually light up the brake indicators. So you can get about 5% brake pressure on these cars without actually lighting up the brakes sometimes. So we might just be seeing him riding that edge, doing a little bit of trail braking, but right now he's looking pretty solid. He's just going to be trying to make that Mustang as wide as possible if Malone catches him. These two have a long history. They race each other all the time, so there will be utmost trust between these two, and you're guaranteed to see a good battle.
And it'll be 2 to go this time. Like you said, half a second is going to be the difference. You can see Malone right up on that curve, using every inch of the track that he can. Sanchez unable to close that gap. He remains 2.3 seconds back. Still has the fast lap of the race, but he was 4/10 slower than Malone last time by, and Malone was 5/10 faster than Luis Enriquez. So clearly one standout car is in this top 3, although he does lose a little bit of time there. Gets off in the grass, gets a little bit squirrely, and has to get out of the throttle ever so slightly. And I'm sure that if you're Enriquez, you're hoping for more of that. Give yourself a little bit of a breather, but I don't think he's going to get a breather. I think Malone is going to keep applying the pressure, and Sanchez is back here saying, come on, guys, get side by side, start dragging each other back.
I'm going to go back to about the halfway point of the race when we were discussing tires and tire wear. And as we were talking about, some of those drivers might be playing a long game. Matt Malone was in the middle of a long line of cars and not looking like he was interested in making any moves. Meanwhile, Jack Sanchez had a lot of positions to make up, starting 11th. So you got to wonder, was Matt Malone saving a little bit of those tires and now has that extra edge to fight with, where Sanchez is really struggling because he had to make a lot of moves to get up here?
That he did, and also it's worth pointing out that Jack Sanchez ran his hot lap of the race right after he came out of the pits, so he probably got the temp up on those tires, got the car handling a little bit poorly, and then it snowballs. Once you get the tires warm, that's it, because it's going to slide, which then makes the tires warm, which then makes it slide. It's a closed loop as we have a move for the lead. To the outside goes Matt Malone, not going to be able to make it work here, but it shows that he is ready. He is there, and he is looking to make the move. Just a minute and a half remaining here at Brands Hatch.
As they passed the flag stand, you saw the white flag flying in the air. This is the final lap. If Malone's going to get it done, it has to be this lap. We saw Luis go defensive turn 1, and it was kind of defending air. Malone wasn't very interested in making that move, and it got him a good run up to turn 2. Now he's right on his bumper as they come into the tightest and most important corner on the track. They got lap traffic right ahead of them. Is Eli Clough going to play a role in this? Matt Malone's going to use him as a little bit of slipstream to help him get up to Luis Enriquez here, and they're going to have a big run down to turn 5, and let's see if anybody's going to try to outbrake each other. No, he's going to stay in line. He's counting the corners down, biding his time. Where is he going to make this move? Possibly a move into the last corner. We could see a side-by-side finish here for the win.
We might, and this is not the first time Malone's been in this situation. I think back to a previous season opener at VIR. Matt Malone was in a nail-biter of a finish for a win at Virginia International. Very reminiscent of this. He did not come out on top in that situation. He played it a little bit too conservative, and he said himself he didn't get aggressive enough. Let's see if he learned from that mistake and he turns up the aggression.
Luis Enriquez going defensive into the final corner, and then is going to blend over at the last second at the same time as Matt Malone. So the stewards will be fine with that move, and Luis is going to lead out of the last corner. Malone goes wide, keeps his foot in it, hangs the rear end out. A little bit of sideways action. Luis Enriquez is going to come home with the win here. Matt Malone second. Jack Sanchez, your defending champion, comes home with his foot on the bottom step of that podium. Then it's going to be Fabian Zweyer, Evan Hoopchap, Kevin Buckholz, and Dave Finch to round out your top 6.
And how about this? We got another battle for the Challenger Division. Charlie Hosey trailing Jeff Schnackle. They're going to see who can sort it out. It looks like out of the final corner, Schnackle is going to get the first Challenger Division win of the season under fire from Hosey. The pressure was applied, but he did not crack. And then back for the amateurs, it looks like Blair still has a solid lead over Tom Wendt for that division, if he can just bring it back to the line.
Luke Sudengate now coming across the line in 17th place. It looks like he's got picked up a little damage there. He has to wonder what could have been. He was up in that top group earlier in the race. We see Camden Decker coming across the line. Jeff Andress coming across the line in the Challenger Division in 19th place. Going to have a good race for him. Dave Moore was also in this front group. We saw him possibly taking tires. I'm not sure exactly what happened to Dave Moore during the race's stop time. Yeah, he was stopped for nearly a minute, so maybe he picked up a pit lane speeding or pit lane unsafe entry. Dave Blair coming across the line in 21st with your Amateur Division win. So we'll be talking to him here in a few minutes. A good opening round for him. Chuck Labano showing a lot of damage on the front of the car. He was involved in that lap 1 incident, comes home 22nd. Tom Wendt was in the amateur lead for a lot of this race, comes home 23rd. Ed Santinelli had a lot of trouble, is going to be coming home 24th. See, Brandon Smith brings the car home 25th. Scott Brooks bringing home the groceries in 26th place. So a lot of these cars still trickling across the line. Got a few more that we're waiting on. We ended up finishing with 28 cars on the lead lap. We got a bit of a battle here. No, Jay Little's in a battle all of his own and just dealing with some traffic. So he's the last car on the lead lap. We're just waiting for him to cross the line, then we'll try to get you the provisional results. What a race.
Yeah, that was definitely exciting. I am very impressed with Luis Enriquez. The defensive driving that he put on at the end of that race, under fire from Matt Malone, just kept a level head. I mean, he is such a calm driver. You never see him really make a mistake. You can't force him into anything. And tonight was a good example of that. I mean, if I'm in his shoes, I see Matt Malone coming that fast, and I'm thinking, yep, it's over. I'm going to panic. I'm going to make a mistake. Not Henriquez. Just got to level head on his shoulders. So great driving there, and Malone doing everything he could. Great driving by Matt to close that gap and even throw his hat into the ring, because when they came out of the pits again, it was a 2.5 second gap, and he just started taking chunks out of it. And then Jack Sanchez, you talked about some drivers wondering what could have been. Gotta wonder what happened to Jack. Was it the tires? Was it something else? The pace just fell off at the worst possible time. He went from being the fastest car on the track to the slowest of the top three, and unfortunately not getting the result he was hoping for. But overall, exciting night, relatively clean racing, a little bit of lap one chaos. You expect that by now, but overall, a lot of fun.
And I got to tell you, Luis Enriquez winning this race, not a surprise to anybody. He was in prime position to win this race last season, had a disconnection with 2 laps to go. He was free and clear of the pack at that point, and so he got one rod from him. And in fact, if I would have picked a winner last season, it would have been Luis Enriquez for the entire season. But he had some connection issues too many times, and they didn't get any drop weeks in the Pro Division last week, so all of those counted as DNFs for him, which really hurt him in the standings. And he still was challenging for the top 3.
Yeah, if those DNFs had not occurred, he definitely would have been a contender for the championship. As you said, even with them, he clawed those points back to the best visibility. So he is one to watch. But we do have results, I believe.
Yeah, we're just waiting for the session to close out so we get those results. And there they are. Luis Enriquez, your winner, round 1 of season 8 here at Brands Hatch. Matt Malone right there on his bumper at the end, finishes second. Jack Sanchez going to come home 3rd place. 4th place, Fabian Zweyer. Welcome back, Fabian. 5th place, Evan Hoopchak, who was up in 2nd place at the early stage of this race. Kevin Buchholz coming home 6th place. Dave Finch going to finish in 7th after a couple trips to the kitty litter. Jay Bass, who had a pretty quiet race, up 10 spots, finishes 8th place. Taco Phil Keck going to come home in 9th place. Jeff Schnackle going to finish in 10th place and wins your Challenger division and rounding out your top 10.
Outside of the top 10, Charlie Hosey coming up just short of his division win in 11th. And you got Brandon Brush in 12th. Andrew Bailing, P13. Dahan 02. Hard-fought night, all night in traffic, brings it home P14. Ryan Campbell, 15th. 16th belongs to Matt Thompson. Luke Sudingay had that late race trouble, as you mentioned, down 12 from where he qualified, P17. 18th, Cam De Decker, Jeff Andrus, P19, and David Moore going to round out the top 20.
Dave Blair, your amateur winner, comes home up 21 spots from where he qualified to finish in 21st. Chuck Labano, despite all the troubles that he had on lap 1, up 22 spots from where he qualified to finish 22nd. 23rd, Tom Wendt. 24th, welcome back, Ed Sancinelli. 25th, Brandon Smith. 26th, Scott Brooks. 27th, John Casey. 28th, Jay Little. 29th at Matthew Gazindu, rounding out your top 30. Stephen Price, he was up 15 spots. Not a bad run for him either.
No, he gained a lot. Mark Royce up 5 from where he qualified, P31. Matt Best, the best Matt, down 11, P32. 33rd, going to be Eli Clough, the other Taco Bell car. Aaron That Face Bray brings it home at P34 in his 163 machine. 35th, going to go to Taylor Ballant. He definitely, something was wrong with that car tonight. You can see he's down 28 from where he qualified and just struggled, but brought it home clean, and that's what matters. Samuel Stoner going to be 36, Chris Logan 37th, Neil Kemp P38, 39th goes to Levi Powell, Mike Pico going to be P40. Running out the rest of the field, Freddie Weaver, Tony Morano, Sean Johnson, Jeff Bernard, Daniel Gabaldon, and Daniel McConnell in 46th.
Wow, what a field. 46 cars took the green flag here today, and some of them didn't survive the first lap, but I can tell you one driver that not only survived the first lap, he took home the trophy today, led just about every lap out there. Luis Enriquez, tell us what it was like for you tonight.
This felt more like a redemption run for me after last season. That's the only reason why I was so focused on winning this time, because I felt like I had to get revenge for that last disconnect.
Absolutely. We mentioned that a few times in the broadcast that you should have won that race last season. You were there in prime position and 2 laps to go. The lag dragon got you.
Yeah, and I actually got lucky this race because as soon as I saw Matt Malone, my relative, I knew he was going to be trouble, and I just got lucky he ran out of laps because I knew it was going to be a really tight battle down there at the end, but he just got he ran out of time basically.
So last season you had some connection issues in a couple races, but there were no drop weeks. This season you have 2 drop weeks in hand in case that happens again. How are you feeling with your chances for the championship?
It kind of evens out this time because, to be 100% transparent with you, I'm still not sure if I'm gonna be able to make the whole season due to some work commitments, but I'm just gonna try and get as many wins as I can. And I say this, of course, but these guys are just gonna get better throughout the season, so I'm just gonna be trying to go out there for whatever I can get and just have fun out there.
Absolutely. Well, before we let you go celebrate your win, Luis, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out before?
Yeah, actually, I would like to shout out to, not a shout out, but I forgot to mention Ken last season. I know that he was having some issues, and I'm just glad to see him around, and nice to see him just be in good health now recently, basically.
Absolutely. In fact, yes, Ken was not present tonight, but Ken is registered to race this season. He's still going through some procedures with his health issues, but he is on the mend and looking better. So yes, absolutely. Shout out to Ken, and our hearts are with you.
Awesome.
Well, congratulations on a win. Hopefully we'll be talking to you again a few more times while you're able to race, and maybe you'll be able to put together a whole season after all and make a run for this championship.
We'll see, man. We'll see. I'll be shooting for it.
That was your race winner and Pro Division winner, Luis Henriquez. And Dirt, I think maybe you found Jeff Schnackel?
I did indeed. He is here in the booth. Jeff, I'll tell you what, sometimes the Challenger Division puts on some of the best racing in the field, and you were in a battle all night long with Charlie Ossie. I mean, you guys could not leave each other alone. You want to talk about earning a division win, you earned it tonight.
Yeah, no, that was crazy out there, honestly. There was some door banging going on, some little tiny mistakes by me, costing me lose about 5 positions out there, and then got backed up in the Charlie, and then it was a fight to stay in front of them basically for half the race.
Yeah, let's talk about that. You got kind of booted off the track a little bit into the grass, and it was sketchy. Up in the booth, we were not sure if you were going to have room to rejoin the track, or even if you were going to be able to keep it pointed in the right direction, but you made one heck of a save. Everybody else made room for you to get back on the blacktop, and fortunately, you were able to overcome that mistake, get the division win. What was going through your mind in that moment?
Don't go right, and don't whiskey throttle it, because man, that would have gone right into that wall. Yeah, that was extremely sketchy. I honestly, I didn't even care how many positions I lost at that point. Just needed to get it back on track.
Yeah, sometimes we said on the broadcast, got to make the best of a bad situation, and that is exactly what you were able to do. As we're showing it on the screen again, cranking that wheel, feathering the throttle to perfection. That is one for the highlight reels, especially knowing that it culminated in a win. Jeff, you finished last season about as good as you can finish the season. You started this season about as good as you can start a season. What's the mindset looking forward?
Honestly, just try to keep it up as best I can, keep tweaking the setups week to week, and just keep my head down and keep trying to toss down the podium for Challenger.
Absolutely. Well, again, congratulations on your division win. Before we let you go, any shout outs you want to make?
Yeah, shout out to Blizzard for the new livery this season. Retired the bomb pop. I think it was about time. Trying to brand myself, and we'll see what it's like the rest of the season here.
Sad to see the bomb pop go, but it is a nice looking livery. We'll give you that. It's a good looking car and looks even better in first place. Thanks for your time, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks guys. Have a great night.
All right, that was Challenger winner. And now Mr. McGrew is going to head down to pit road and find our amateur winner, Dave Blair.
Dave Blair managed to make his way through traffic, gained 21 spots on the night, finished 21st overall. Most importantly, though, brings home that amateur win. Dave, what was it like out there dealing with all those cars?
Not too bad. Just tried to stay clean as usual. You know me.
The perennial winner of the Clean Driver Award in the amateur division, Dave Blair, is no stranger to making his way through traffic without having a lot of incidents. What was that lap 1 incident? How did that look from your perspective? I know there was a big backup and it kind of turned into a parking lot there in turn 2.
Oh yeah. I was hard on the brakes because there was somebody sideways in front of me, and I'm of course looking in my rearview mirror because you know that's coming. But luckily, everyone was heads up behind me. I think everybody was seeing what was happening, so got lucky there. But I came close to getting rear-ended.
I know you've been gunning for it for a couple seasons now. What do you feel like your chances are for the amateur title this season?
Well, as long as no new fast guys join the league, because it always seems to be somebody new comes in and they don't know where to put them, and they put them in the amateur division, they blow our doors off. I think I don't want to say anything because last season I won the first race, and then I had 4th and 5th finishes after that. So I'm not going to count my chickens. I'll just try to do the best I can.
Well, that sounds like a pretty good plan. Before we let you go celebrate this win, Dave, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Yeah, of course. I'd like to shout out the Sim Pit. They're the reason, Sean Cole, he's the reason I got into sim racing all those years ago when he was on Inside Sim Racing. And just the Sim Pit's fantastic place to, go and learn about sim racing. So that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm running in the league, actually.
Well, awesome. Good to hear. And congratulations on your win. Hopefully we'll be talking to you more this season, and we'll see if you can finally get that amateur title under your belt.
I hope so.
That was your amateur division winner, Dave Blair. And as Luis said, our hearts really go out to Kenny Stepp. He's been dealing with some health issues over the past year or so. He had a stroke in the middle of last season and is working on a recovery. He's got a couple more procedures coming up that he's getting himself taken care of. And Ken, you're a great driver. We love having you here in the league. Can't wait to see you back here on track with the rest of the boys. So hope for a speedy recovery. And there are a few people I'd like to shout out and thank. Aaron Bray, who's one of the drivers in the league. Aaron, that face Bray, who helps us with the points. Jeremy Ritchie is our eye in the sky in the race. So we do have some live stewarding in the race. And Mike Darknut Neekum, who was not present tonight due to a scheduling conflict, but will be here for the rest of the season. He runs the AMS swag shop. So check out the Dark D-Nut Stuff shop on Etsy. Link should be in the description. And check out the AMS swag as well as some pedal mods, and you can get some nice certificates printed out onto slate. So a lot of offerings there in the D-Nut Stuff shop on Etsy. And I want to ask Josh directly here. Josh, do we have any upcoming broadcasts we want to talk about? I think we have some stuff coming up in the rest of the week, and I know we definitely have some stuff this Sunday. We have here coming up for Ray Esports Club Racing League in the midweek is coming up. And then I know for a fact on Saturday and Sunday, we got the Weekend Warriors from Ray Esports. We got 3 different leagues running, all here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. So lots of broadcasts, lots of racing action for you. Right now, you're seeing the times for Wednesday for the club racing league for Ray Esports, and then the Weekend Warriors Saturday, the Formula Vs, Sundays, the Formula Fords and the Spec Racer Fords. You'll hear me on the call in 2 of those races, the ones on Sunday. So come back, catch us out here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Lots of racing action both through the week and on the weekend. And Andre, man, what's last thoughts? What are you looking forward to in this season?
Man, I'm looking forward to the points battle. I think even though Henriquez says he's not going to make every single race, he might just do good enough that he could miss 1 or 2. And, just like last season, and make it interesting. So it seems like all 3 divisions are really tight as far as talent. And we're going to see a battle to the final race, just like we seem to every single year. And I think that's what makes AMS so much fun. But other than that, just looking forward to the on-track action and, again, being back in the booth. I want to thank you, Mr. McGrew, for reaching out and bringing me back. I thought when Corey kind of semi-retired, I wasn't going to be able to broadcast these Mustangs anymore, and I was a little bit bummed out. So I was glad to get the message and be able to join you once again.
Absolutely. Wouldn't have it any other way, Andre. Well, and on that note, I want to say good night to everybody. Don't forget to hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. Catch us on the other broadcasts we have coming up this week here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. My name's Randall McGrew. I've been joined by Andre Dirt Grandbouche on commentary, and in the production trailer, Joshua Wilkie working the buttons and knobs here for the American Muscle Series Race 1 at Brands Hatch. Thank you, good night, and we'll see you again next week.